Welcome back to Esthetics Magazine. Discover more skincare resources at estheticsmagazine.com. In this episode, we are going to offer a crash course in proper draping for facials. The client's draping at the beginning of the treatment is important to help facilitate the treatment and promote client relaxation and a sense of well-being. As the esthetician, you are responsible for exposing only the area of the client's face, neck, or shoulders that you are treating at the time, for example, exposing the forehead and temples when you are massaging the face and scalp and then recovering these areas before beginning work on the neck. The client's breasts and genitals should be covered at all times and should not be exposed. If the client is wearing a strappy top, you should help them remove the straps and hold the towel or sheet in place for them to make it easier for them to get onto the treatment table. When the client is positioned on the treatment table, they should be provided with cushions or bolsters under their legs or ankles or anywhere else that they feel they need support in order to make them comfortable. It is necessary throughout the treatment to maintain communication with the client, make sure the pressure and techniques you are using are comfortable for them, and keep checking that they are still comfortable and warm as the treatment progresses. If you are using a damp towel or other material in a facial treatment, it is especially important to check regularly that the draping and towel under the client's head and neck is still dry and to change it if it becomes wet so that the client doesn't become cold or uncomfortable. Always use gentle lifting and turning movements to hold the draping away from the client rather than pulling or dragging at the towel or at the client's skin. When providing a facial treatment, ensuring that the client feels comfortable and that the client's privacy is protected throughout the facial draping process is essential. The esthetician needs to create an environment in which the client feels safe and their personal space is respected. It is important to ensure that the client's chest and body are covered by the drape or towel at all times, and only the area of the client's face and neck that is being treated should be exposed. When the client is positioned on the bed, the body should be covered by a towel or drape. It is also possible to use a larger towel over both the client's chest and legs, or a smaller towel over the chest and a larger towel over the legs. But the towel over the chest should be placed first. A towel can also be used to cover a woman's bra straps at the neck. It is important to ensure that all of the exposed skin of the client is covered by a towel or drape. At no time should the client's body or undergarments be exposed during the facial draping process. The client's personal modesty and privacy should always be respected. When the client's back is being treated, the client should be asked to sit up and the drape or towel should be moved to cover the lower back. The client's torso should be covered completely. Even when the client's physical well-being is not a concern, the client's emotional and psychological comfort is just as important. It is also wise to advise the client that procedures involving electrical equipment require the client to be supervised throughout, thus ensuring that the client feels secure in the knowledge that their well-being is considered at all times. The drape or towel should be secured into place so that it does not move or slip and expose the client at any time. For example, when the client is asked to roll over onto their back after the first part of the treatment is completed, care should be taken to ensure that the towel or drape moves with the client and remains fully covering the client's body. Also, when a client is transitioning from lying on their back to turning onto their front, the esthetician should continue to hold the towel or drape over the client while the client turns. The client should never simply be left to turn over and expose themselves, even if only for a moment. These guidance measures not only ensure that the client feels comfortable in the physical sense, but also maintain the client's modesty, thus achieving both privacy and comfort for the client throughout the facial draping process. It is very important to ensure that the client is made to feel as comfortable as possible during the process of receiving a facial treatment, and that the measures outlined above are carried out in such a way that the client's modesty and comfort are maintained at all times. This is equally important when the client is required to roll over onto their back during the facial treatment, or needs to be seated and have a portion of their back treated. All of the exposed skin of the client should be covered by a towel or drape. The use of towels and drapes has to comply with the standard draping practices. Standard practice includes using a large towel to cover the body and a small towel to wrap the hair. The body and limbs should be draped in such a way that only the area being worked on is exposed. Second, towels and drapes must be skillfully applied to ensure that the client's modesty and privacy are maintained throughout the treatment. For example, the client should be provided with a private place, like a cloth screen, to undress and change into a spa gown before the commencement of the treatment. Then, towels and drapes should be used to cover as much of the client's body as possible while exposing only the area for the work on the face, neck, or shoulder. As the point of contact between the client's skin and the esthetician's hands is likely to vary because of different treatment procedures, the draping may have to be adjusted accordingly from time to time to ensure that the client's privacy is always protected. Towels and drapes serve both functional and aesthetic purposes in facial treatments. The primary function is to ensure that the client is comfortably covered and warm throughout the entire treatment. Providing privacy for the client is equally important, especially when parts of the body have to be exposed, palpated, or massaged during the course of the facial treatment. This can help the client to relax and feel more comfortable during treatment procedures. As towels and drapes are in direct contact with the skin, it is essential to replace them with clean ones for each new client so as to maintain good sanitation and prevent the spread of infections. Soiled and wet towels and drapes should also be removed and replaced immediately to keep the client dry and comfortable. Clinical waste should be handled and disposed of according to a specific set of national guidelines. For example, it is likely that this waste will need to be incinerated, so there should be a safe and secure method of storing and disposing of the waste until it can be removed from the premises. Any spillages should be cleaned up immediately. If there is a risk to health, the spillage should be isolated from the rest of the room by using a protective measure such as a hazard sign, and a senior member of staff should be informed. If the spillage is a body fluid, staff should use gloves, and any non-disposable cleaning materials should be disposed of in a plastic bag as clinical waste. The treatment room and any shared or communal areas, such as toilets, should be deep cleaned on a regular basis and according to a set cleaning schedule. All cleaning tasks should be clearly allocated to a specific member of staff and supervised by a designated person with overall responsibility for infection control. Staff should also wear gloves for any invasive procedure, such as extraction. Gloves must be discarded after each use and hands should be washed immediately after removal. After the gloves have been discarded, staff should adopt the use of single-use paper towels to dry their hands. This will ensure that any remaining bacteria or dirt is not transferred from a cloth towel back onto the skin. First and foremost, all staff members should wash their hands before and after each client contact. Hand washing should take at least 20 seconds and should make use of both soap and water. This is essential to prevent cross-contamination between staff members, clients, and the surfaces in the treatment room. For example, bacteria can be pushed further into the hair follicles and cause more extensive irritation if extraction implements are not cleaned properly. Exfoliation can cause small abrasions in the skin, and if the infection occurs in these wounds, it can lead to more severe complications. Proper hygiene and sanitation are fundamental requirements in the facial treatment room in order to prevent the spread of bacteria and infection among clients. After all, many facial treatments, such as extraction and exfoliation procedures, can cause skin irritation and breakages in the skin. When the skin is compromised, there is an increased risk of infection. Discover the natural power of vitamins with this new book, Understanding Vitamins in Skincare by Greg Rishaw. Learn how vitamins can nourish, protect, and renew your skin, all while embracing a healthy, balanced approach. Get your copy today and uncover the secrets to natural ingredients. Understanding Vitamins in Skincare is available now on Amazon.com.